Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Joy Division with another game of competitive Scythe. So this is going to be a super exciting game. We pulled the strongest combination in the entire game, in my opinion. So Rusviet Innovative, absolutely top tier, and in my take, just the best board you can possibly have. It's fast, it scores high, it's more or less unstoppable. So we got extremely lucky here, and I'm excited to put this thing to work against some talented opponents. I'll get into what makes Rusviet Innovative so strong and why it is the top board in the game. But first, let's take a look at what we have as a setup here. We've got a 4-player game with our neighbors being Albion, Saxony, and then all the way across is Polania. When you're thinking about what could potentially get in your way, you have to consider Polania, and then you have to make sure you keep your eye on Saxony. We are fortunate in that nobody can really enter our base except for Polania via Submerge or eventually Riverwalk. So the board combinations we have Saxony Industrial. That's a very fast combination, and pretty much like the only way this game could fall out of our grasp here is if Saxony is able to get a ton of combats very quickly. So they already built a speed mech. It's round 2. You can see how things accelerate quite fast here. Now, Polania has Patriotic. That's a pretty good board. It gets to enlist and deploy a lot. Those are powerful things. They'll be really heavily weighing this first encounter to determine what kind of strategy they move forward with. Now, Albion, up top, they're one of our neighbors here, so the actions that they take will impact us. They're like a bit of a slower combination, so we can expect that we probably won't be fighting with them or dealing with them on tunnels or anything like that, barring any accelerating encounters they find. Saxony moves and gets their first encounter. Okay, 2 for 3 is pretty good. They can also deploy a mech, so this is one of the ways like they can greatly accelerate the game. They choose the second option, which is solid, and they go for oil. So they're telling us they want to be able to move 3 units at once. Getting an upgrade is really important, as Saxony, especially when you plan on fighting quite a bit. Albion plans to build mechs and enlist, so this is going to be a pretty fun game. I guess to talk about what I'm doing here with this board combination, you can see right now my starting tiles and also my board in the bottom of the screen. I can produce to deploy, and I can also move to enlist. So I am going to, like it's round 4 right now. I traded 2 times in a row to get an upgrade, and you can see my deploy now only costs 2 metal. So I produced to build a mech. I'll produce 2 more times to build another mech, and then I'll be able to move with 8 workers. There's a nice encounter there, 4 metal. So if Polania ends up building 2 mechs really quick, I'll have to potentially watch out for that lake right below my metal tile. Okay, so again, back to my board though. Being able to produce workers and deploy mechs at the same time is incredibly strong. And on top of that, Rusviet has Relentless, so I can just repeat the move action over and over. And my plan here is to get enough food to finish all of my enlistments and then repeatedly move until the game ends. So if you're thinking about the 6 stars I'm aiming for, it's the worker star, the mech star, the enlistment star, and then combat objective. Just with Rusviet's faction ability, Relentless, plus this board having produce to deploy, I'm able to play incredibly fast and incredibly consistent. So depending on what my encounter looks like, I expect this game to be over anywhere from like 11 rounds to 13 rounds, which is absolutely insane. Next time you play this game, I want you to pause it on round 12 and look at what your score is. That would be your final score in a game with this board playing competitively. So it's crazy. It's definitely bonkers, but that's the way I expect this game to go, is 12 rounds average. If I get an encounter that accelerates me, it could be even faster than that. And yeah, this is definitely top tier material right here. So Polania just did like I'm not even going to talk about it right now. We'll talk about this later, but I cannot believe they just did what they did. Let's pay attention to what Albion's up to. Hopefully they don't forget their flag here. So Albion finds an encounter. Not my favorite one, but could be useful for them. We'll see what they end up picking. Albion wants a lot of food and metal, but it looks like they're going to take oil. And oil is nice. Like, as an Albion player, you have to have that triple move. You need to take advantage of this rally mechanic where you can move a mech with a worker, move the worker off the mech, and then teleport or rally to where that worker is. So they got that done. I'm thinking about my resources. I'm going to need 2 on metal and 6 on food. So I'm setting that up here. And now I'm looking at Saxony. They have 2 mechs already. If they get 1 more, I'm kind of in trouble on this closest farm to the tunnel. So I'm just going to play it safe, because there's really no point in taking unnecessary risk when you're already on such a fast track to begin with. This encounter I just got is amazing, actually. Option 2 can give me 3 food right now, and since I'm currently moving, that'll let me enlist. I need 4 enlists to end the game, so that effectively reduced the number of turns I need to finish by 1. And when your strength is already speed of play, it's incredibly strong to improve upon that. So we're potentially looking at an 11-round game, which should 100% get us the win here. Really, the only thing we have to be careful about is, or cognizant of at least, is Saxony getting a ton of fights. So we might have to block them if that's the case. Okay, so back to Polania, I just have one thing to say. Don't ever pick Riverwalk as a Polania player as your first mech. You need speed and you need submerge, and I just won't have, like, there is no reason to do anything different. Moving around 1 square at a time onto tunnels with Saxony in the game is just a terrible idea, and I would be shocked if Saxony does not pounce on Polania right now. It's just absurd. So looking at my production plan here, these 2 produces, so this one and the next one, will finish off my mechs and also give me enough food to close out the game. I would have needed 12 food if I didn't get that encounter, so I'm going to have 3 left over when all is said and done. Okay, they move right onto Polania and get an encounter at the same time. This is rough. So I'm not worried about the game being over soon, because I'll be out there in no time, but Polania is not doing themselves a favor right now. Okay, 4-4. They throw quite a bit. That's probably a mistake. They're going to need to make sure they hold on to cards this game, and they just used half of their card count. So maybe Saxony has a lot of objectives they can complete, and that's why they did that, but I'm surprised they threw 2 4s plus some power. That was apparently a must-win combat for them. Decent objective, not what they would love to see, but not terrible either. Food is always good. They could maybe trade for an enlistment to get some cards back, so that's a good find by them in that regard. Okay, so if I'm Polania, I just moved and got sent home. Not liking that very much, but can't really do anything about it. You can see our setup here. We have 6 food from our produce, so we're going to produce 1 more time, and that'll give us 3 extra food, but you know, without that encounter, we would have just enough to get all our enlistments done. The one thing it will do is give us our 4th mech, so to have 4 mechs by round like 9, I believe, is kind of insane, because we also took care of our worker star. Yeah, lots of food available on these encounters. That's typically what you would like to see. Okay, so we need one more produce. We'll get that done. Um, build our fourth mech. The Rusviet mechs are really powerful in this game. They make this strategy even better by specifically People's Army and Township. I have a lot of mobility. I'm able to teleport to the center of the board, and I'm also able to bring workers with me to throw extra combat cards. And combat cards are the most important resource when it comes to controlling the game. If you want to control where people are and what they can do, you want to have more cards than them and the ability to throw more cards than them. Power is important to a point. Being able to throw up to 5 with just a card and being able to do that multiple times can quickly negate somebody's power altogether. Albion might actually get a taste of a couple fights here because he's got more power than everybody else and he's right next to that tunnel, so that'll be good for them. As Albion, you can't really chase down fights. They have to kind of come to you, so you gotta be pretty close to the action to take advantage of your power. Okay, so I'm moving now. I'm trying to spread out. I maybe am making a mistake by leaving workers in my home base. You want to kind of bring them with you to make sure you have enough for People's Army. And I guess in retrospect, like, it probably would be better for me to take these 3 workers from my home base out to the field and spread them out for future moves rather than leave them home, because they're not really blocking any territory at my home, and I'd rather have more control over where people can and can't go. But I'm feeling good. Like, it's round 10. I'm ready to start collecting combats, and I'm gonna collect my objective as well. So in case, I don't believe I talked about it yet, but to look at the objectives I have, Northern Advantage is hold 3 tundra territories. So I only need 2 more, and that's a star. Create a permanent foothold is awful, and I like cringe every time I see it, and it's like never an objective you want to have or do. Building buildings in this game is just not the way I like to play. Okay, so this is like kind of a nightmare actually. Saxony getting another combat off Polania, who has 0 power. The good news is Saxony is really low on cards. So what happened there is Saxony threw their 2 remaining combat cards and won the fight. This puts them at 0 power and 0 cards. So they do have 4 stars, but that was a huge risk because now Albion can move on top of that tunnel and win a fight for 0 power, 0 cards, which there's like no reason to not do that because you won't even lose popularity for it. So we're gonna have to make sure that they can't sneak out a victory here, but what I would like to say is that Saxony is playing incredibly well. Like, they have 4 stars by round 10. That's super fast, and if it wasn't for the strength of our board here, I'd be extremely worried. So hats off to them. They really went all out, but they might be burnt. They might have burnt out here. I'm not sure what their objectives are, which is a little scary, so maybe they don't need to fight anymore, but now they're kind of a sitting duck. So yeah, Albion just abused them on the tunnel, and I think I'm gonna have to do the same just to make sure they don't sneak out a win here. So I'm going to visit them on their village and spread out at the same time to collect my objective. I'm not interested in fighting Albion. They're a little too powerful. Their shield mech and eventually sword mech are pretty hard to deal with. So even with People's Army, it's just like not a good look for me because they'll be throwing 2 cards and have max power. I say max is in like 7 or more because in a fight you can only throw 7 at the greatest. Okay, so I jumped into Saxony's village, which, like I talked about, is a free fight because they don't have any power and they don't have any cards. I'm going to collect 2 more tundra spaces by spreading out like that. I chose to leave a worker behind on the factory because Albion doesn't have speed or any way to like get there quickly, and Polania doesn't have the mobility to get out of their base onto the factory either, so I'm pretty safe there. Okay, so free combat for me. I only need one more to end the game. Oh, and I just made a huge mistake that I hate. So there's this glowing like complete your objective button, and when you click that, your turn ends. So I actually just missed an enlistment. I only have 2, but I should have 3 right now. So that sucks, but it's my bad. I should have taken my time and done the enlist first. But it's really not a huge deal because I would have needed to move 4 times anyway. I just got an encounter that sped that up for me. So now it's like, it's as if I'm playing where I just got a vanilla encounter that didn't help me. So you can think of it that way, but in reality, I just messed up. So when you're out there, just take your time. Don't click the shiny button before you're sure you're done with everything. It gets me sometimes. Okay, so another move by me. This is like why you want to play Rusviet. You just get to repeatedly move, and that's very overpowered. I'm going to get off some of the tunnels because I don't want Albion to jump on me. They're the only ones who could like win a fight against me. But I do want to keep getting stars, so I'm going to beat Polania by throwing 2 cards here. At low power, Rusviet is pretty broken with people's army. Like when your opponents also have low power, because they just can't match anything you can with combat cards. I'll just take that top option. There's no point in losing coin at this stage of the game. I want to collect as many coins as I can, while also winning. So, very impressed with Saxony, but they don't really have an out anymore. They're stuck in their base. Even if they did have objectives that were easy to complete, they need too many turns of movement now to do so. I'm hoping that Albion doesn't knock off too many of my workers. Okay, here's some movement there. There's a fight. They have 1 card. So the chances that it's a 4 or higher are pretty low. So I'm just going to throw my 4 and hopefully they drew a 3 or a 2. And if not, like, not a big deal. They're only going to get 1 star at most. Okay, so they drew a 5, which is nice, but again, it's totally okay. Like, they can't possibly have gotten an objective done just now. But they could be close. If it's 3 villages, for example, that's pretty scary. If it's 3 iron spots, that's also scary. I think they're just spreading out, though. So, Polania has... They're pretty much... Yeah, they're screwed. They have nothing. Albion, though, we'll see if they move here. I think they will. I probably think they're going to fight and spread because they know the game's going to end. Okay, so they choose to fight Saxony. They're going to lose all their popularity for this. But they... yeah, that kind of hurts. Oh, and they send one of my workers home, too. So they're just spreading out, which is smart. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. My take is that it's going to be Rusviet 1, Saxony 2, just looking at stars alone. Like, it's hard to make up for having 5 stars. Like, the point equivalent from 5 to 2 is pretty massive. Okay, so this is the end now. I'm able to move and enlist. I'm not interested in fighting anyone. I just want to get as many territory spots as I can. So every single territory I pick up is 2 points. And I'm just thinking about how to maximize this. I'm going to move off the factory to pick up 2 more and then back onto it to hold it down. So 1, yeah, I think that's a good idea. 1 and 2, and then that should be game. We get to pick a factory card for fun and then enlist for our last star. Okay, so hats off to Saxony. They played a pretty exciting game, just happened to run out of steam at the end. This is a very, very strong board with a very high score. 55, it should be, in 12 rounds. So That's 20 more coins than the next closest player. That is insane. Hope you enjoyed. Rusviet Innovative. I'll see you all next time.